I was really inspired by punk and, you know, really got into it. But like everything, it gets stale. A lot of the bands, a lot of the ideas over the sort of during the 80s kind of fizzled out a bit. You know, the original ideology was good, but after hearing the same thing for several years, you know, you get bored. I was in punk bands in the early 80s. That's really when I got into music. So got into music through punk. I was in bands for years and years and years, doing a lot of squat parties, a lot of very DIY ethics, very anarcho kind of ideas and ideology. So that kind of followed through when I got into techno. That was with Julian and Aaron. We still came from this background, so we had very strong ideas about, you know, being underground, about keeping to our roots. There's been a history. There's a law which says you can live in a building if it's empty. If you can get into the building, you can live there. Also, obviously, you can take that a stage further. If you want to get a building that's empty and you can get in there and you can legally occupy it, then you can do a party there. With the parties that we did originally, and the parties that still go on now, not by us but by other people that still do it, and we play at those parties still. They're just disused buildings, so you can get in them, you can hold a party. It doesn't really hurt anybody. They're normally buildings that are pretty much derelict, so it's good. London has such a diverse scene. You know, there is literally every kind of electronic music you can think of and a scene to go with it, which is, so there is a big rave scene, but it's not really centered around acid techno. It's more to do with, there's still kind of a small scene for hardcore, there's still a small scene for happy hardcore, there's still a small scene for you know, it's a big scene for drum and bass. It's kind of different kind of rave scenes, so you do get really big parties, but they may not be acid techno parties, so there is still big parties. But the law changed a few years ago and really stamped out a lot of the more big illegal parties and a lot of the more underground raves. So, you know, now it is a lot more club things and stuff. I don't like this so much. I think it's been a bit absorbed by the major labels and about, you know, it's a bit more about money now, and there's not an edge to it that there used to be. So, you know, with the squat parties and the underground parties and the underground clubs, you know, we try and keep it a little bit more edgy, a little bit more sort of for the music, and not just for the money and for the obvious kind of, like, you know, corporate club kind of thing.
Eu sou o Rica. Fazem 4 anos que eu comecei essa brincadeira, que acabou ficando séria, seríssima, e hoje eu estou envolvido na história até o pescoço. As raves pra mim é o que eu me identifico mais. É a céu aberto, você vê a luz do dia, você sente o sol na pele, você vê as pessoas. Então acho que tem uma relação muito especial o dia da festa, o DJ com a galera que tá dançando. A música eletrônica em si, o techno, o trance, o house, a batida sequencial, já é uma maneira de meditação. Você está ouvindo aquele som por horas, com a batida repetida, é uma maneira de você estar concentrado em uma coisa, você desliga praticamente do mundo. Então é uma maneira de meditação. Muitas pessoas meditam realmente sem perceber.
Acho que a diferença básica do hard trance pro trance é que ele é um pouco mais rápido, né? Os BPMs dele são um pouco mais acelerados, então varia entre 150 e 160, né? Depende muito. Mas com certeza ele é um som muito mais energético que o trance. Aqui na rave eu tô acostumado a fazer set que varia de 4 até 8 horas. Dependendo do dia, né? Se eu tô inspirado, se eu não tô muito cansado. Primeiro, eu precisava de algumas adaptações na cabine para poder ficar tanto tempo. Uma delas é que a cabine aqui tem banheiro, que é uma grande ajuda pro DJ. Acho que nunca ninguém pensou como é que o cara fica tanto tempo lá tocando sem o banheiro. Isso não acontece, a sorte é que aqui tem um banheiro. E também depende muito da tua disposição e das pessoas que estão dançando. Se elas estão respondendo bem ao teu som e estão animadas, elas mesmas te motivam a ficar ali tocando.
É um tipo de uma hipnose, sabe? Eu repeti várias vezes o mesmo som, o mesmo movimento. E a galera acaba se chamando pelo som, né? O pessoal começa a olhar, tal, ver o que é isso, o que tá acontecendo e acaba encaixando direitinho na música e fica bem legal, uma sincronia que rola. É o lance de encaixar o timbre certo na hora certa, né? Por isso que tem tantos instrumentos assim, a percussão são mais, às vezes, contando bem, são 20 instrumentos que eu acabo tocando numa noite. A percussão complementa tudo isso, né? É como eu falei, uma terceira picape.
Gente, não tá legal, de novo.
Teste de novo.
Gente, vamos fazer o seguinte, tem Skol aí? Então apaga a luz e solta o som!
Skol traz pra você Skol Beats, House, Techno, Trance, Drum and Bass. 9 de junho em Curitiba e 10 de junho em São Paulo. Skol Beats, a festa mais redonda do planeta.
É House? Não, Techno.
Throughout the last year or so, the last 2 years in England, there's been a great change in the trance music scene. Trance music has become very popular in the commercial clubs now, with a lot of commercial DJs playing the music that we were playing a couple of years ago. So we've changed our style a bit. We've got a bit deeper and a bit harder. We've gone for a slightly more techno angle. Also, there's a big hard house influence coming into the music at the minute. Hard house seems to be very, very popular in certain clubs in England, and it's sort of borrowed quite a lot of the aspects of trance. So yeah, if it's trancey enough, if it's hard house, then I'll play it. If it's techno with a little bit of trance, I'll play it. If it's pure hard trance, I'll play it. The list goes on. I could talk for hours and hours about the many aspects of trance music at the minute. Music is good quality, good production, good sounds, something a little bit fresh, something innovative, something that is going to make people move on the dance floor and also give me pleasure playing it, then I'm going to play it, regardless of what sort of classification it comes into, you know. Working on about 6 different projects for different labels, all the time using different names, and you know, there's a lot of people who know that it's us, but there's a lot of people that don't know it's us, and I'm happy about that. You know, I think to me that's good. I like the anonymity of it as much as the success and everything. So.